You're live, Shauna.
That's fine. Okay.
Gotta get touched up.
I'm gonna be me all day, every day. Y'all like my lips? Everybody else
Looks good.
I'm like, everybody else got a little pop of color. You know what I'm saying? Give a little pop for the people.
All right.
I'm gonna mute myself. Yeah.
Well, I guess I'll say hello to everybody who's joining us. So we're going to get started in just a few minutes. Shauna is going to be leading us. So just stay with us. We're going to give everybody a minute or two to jump on.
I'm so excited for this conversation, ladies.
Me too.
Woo.
Hey, Shauna, speak just a little closer to the mic or something, because you're quiet.
Come into the light, Caroline. Can you hear me now?
Oh, we can hear you.
Can you hear me clearly?
I almost feel like we could, I don't know if you were closer, we could hear you better, but we can still hear you. So
If I got any closer, the laptop would be
It'll be plastered on you.
Sorry, y'all. Hold on. Technical difficulties, you people.
It wouldn't be 2020 without a technical challenge.
all right, let's see what we got going on here.
All right, good people.
How about now?
Yes, there
That's
you are.
great. Yes.
Come on, Apple. Work headphones. Ooh, yes. All right. We're going to give it one more minute and then we're going to get started because I like to be respectful of everybody's time. Yes, yes, yes.
We have a lot to talk about.
Woo! This conversation about to get real.
Yeah.
About to get real.
Real deep.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Looks like we got a few people on here.
Hey y'all, how y'all doing?
Good to see you
Hi,
guys, whoever
Gabby.
is with us.
I am so excited. You all are joining in with us as we are about to dive into a really deep discussion. Um, I think we should go ahead and get started. What do you ladies think?
Let's do it.
All right, let's get it cracking. So, hello everyone. My name is Shauna Kidd Washington, and I am here to moderate this good conversation today. Woo-hoo. No, but seriously, today we're here to have a conversation, a really serious conversation. And the topic of discussion is double jeopardy, women and racial divide. That's deep, y'all. But I really want to touch on why we're having that conversation, right? I think it's important, as you can see, there are women who come from different backgrounds, and we're here to give our perspectives and our own personal experiences of what has taken place in regards to us, about things that we've witnessed and things that we are aware of or have questions about. And so we're here to provide a space for all of us to be open honest, vulnerable, and be here to hear one another. Not just listen to respond, but genuinely hear what each of us has to say and be respectful, even if we don't agree with each other. We want to be able to provide that space. And in that, we want you to join in on this conversation. So please, by all means, hit us up, you know what I mean, on the chat and let us know. And, you know, we'll try to answer all of your questions or even just sharing your experience. Like, talk to us, you know, we're doing this for us, for you. We're doing this for all of us women because it is time. It is time. It is time. So I would like for each of us to go ahead and introduce ourselves and just share why you feel this discussion is important. Laura, let's start with you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Laura Hughes. I serve on the Kneel for Nine leadership team, and I'm also a director for a healthcare office here in Racine, Wisconsin. This discussion is really important to me because I think it's so easy to assume what people think and assume where people are coming from, and being able to really dialogue and have a conversation and hear and try to understand is important. And so hopefully we can model some of that today and learn from each other. I'm really excited to learn from all the ladies that are here with me. They have great perspectives, great information, and I know that I'll get a lot of great stuff tonight.
Sonia, would you like to go next?
Sure. My name is Sonia English. I am co-founder of Kneel for Nine, along with my amazing husband, Jay English. We also co-founded an organization called Plain English, where we lead conversations to bring greater understanding between much of the racial division that's going on right now. So shameless plug. Check us out at plainenglishinc.org if you'd like to know more about what we offer and what we do even beyond what we do with Kneel for Nine. I believe this conversation is important. Just like Laura said, I think we need to hear one another beyond really listen actively, gain greater perspective, and also display respect. I think that that's just so important, that you can have conversations even in moments where you may not fully understand the other perspective, but display grace and respect and just coming in with an open heart and mind. And then also to build one another up. I think we as women, whatever color we are, can empower one another, rather than the competition and cattiness and insecurities that sometimes try to creep up, or all that stuff, where we can just come together and build each other up genuinely.
Absolutely. Vanessa.
Hi everyone, I'm Vanessa Stafford and I'm from Dallas, Texas. I'm new to the group. I just met some of the ladies earlier this week, and it's a pleasure that my friend Shauna has brought me to the table. And I'm excited about this discussion. It's a chance to share my own experience and hopefully to find some solidarity amongst all women. And have an opportunity to share my truth. And hopefully you all have the same opportunity. So thank you for the invite.
Absolutely. And last but definitely not least, Miss Shania.
Hi, I'm Shania. I'm 24. I'm on the Kneel for Nine leadership board as well. I believe that this conversation is extremely important because I feel like it needs to be a safe platform for women of all color to kind of speak out issues or speak out, disagreements, and also allow a broader perspective from different races of women in order to build each other up. We have to know the ground information first, and I feel like once we hash that out and once we speak out about it and, possibly come to some agreements or some disagreements, that that would be the next step in building each other up as women.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The wonderful panel for discussion this evening. Oh, and yeah, I'm Shauna Kidd Washington. Like, I ain't doing myself, y'all. I'm perfect. I am founder and CEO of A Social Butterfly, which is an organization that advocates for our at-risk, or what I like to call our promised youth. And I've been on the leadership team, you know, since day one, you know, like, okay. So before we really dive into a deep discussion, I want everyone to have an opportunity to just see where we come from, our backgrounds and things like that. And so we're going to play the Put Your Finger Down Challenge, Double Jeopardy edition. So just so you all know, none of them know what these questions or these statements are. So everybody except for me
nervous.
is like, they don't know what's coming.
Yeah.
But we gonna do it. So let's start. So everybody put your 10 fingers up. I need 10. You only gave me 5.
I gotta restart another one.
Oh my God.
We're all inclusive here.
Yes.
I cannot. See, you always gotta have somebody who don't want to play by the rules. Okay. Okay. So put a finger down if you have ever been called a racial slur. Put a finger down if you've ever been discriminated against. Put a finger down if you haven't seen an advertisement with a woman of the same race as you in the last week. Think about it.
Well, no. Back up.
Put a finger down if your boss is not the same race as you. Put a finger down if you have been the only person of your race in a room ever. Put a finger down if in a conversation someone used the words "you people." Put a finger down if you've seen more than 2 racial stereotype movies with women in the last year. Put a finger down if you have been followed in a store unnecessarily. Put a finger down if your friends made a race joke and you knew it was wrong, but you didn't speak up. Put a finger down if you were judged because you dated someone outside of your race. Put a finger down if you have no more than 1 friend outside of your race.
Put a finger down if you have no more than one.
If you only have 1 Black friend, if you only have 1 Hispanic friend.
That's a trick question.
Right. So like,
I was like,
she was like, wait, what? I saw everybody's face, and I was like, well, maybe they'll just let it slide. But y'all
you know me, I don't let anything slide.
So excuse me, I need clarification, please. Okay, so yes, the last one is, so like, for example, I only have 1 white friend, so I have to put a finger down.
Got it.
Okay, so that gives everyone an idea of the people that are in this space having this conversation, the things that we don't have in common, and the things that we have personally experienced or personally been a part of. Ladies, you may put your fingers down if you didn't already have them down. All right, so again, just a friendly reminder, we are all here to share our own personal experiences. We do not speak for all of our race. We're talking about personal experiences. So please don't take anything that we say personal, but by all means understand that we are going to be transparent and honest about our experiences. So the first question that I want to ask, and ladies, whomever is welcome to answer. Have you ever had the wrong perception of a woman based on the color of her skin? Why or why not? Who would like to speak on that?
Okay.
I'm like, I won't get to calling names like we in class, honey. Somebody better speak.
Okay, I'll start. And this is really sad because there have been times where authority figures in my life who, I'm not going to give them any excuse, would tell me things like Black women can't drive well. Watch it when you see a Black woman on the road. They don't drive well, especially a younger one, which is horrible. That's the one thing that I like. As soon as I saw that question, that's what stood out to me. And it's just such a stereotype. It's annoying, but I totally believed it when I was, learning how to drive. I think my driver's ed teacher actually told me that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't expecting that.
Right.
Well,
I mean,
well, I can't drive and I still got a license, so there. Like I can't, but I'll still be driving. And I ain't never caused no accident. Anyone else want to share? Have you ever had the wrong perspective of a woman based on the color of her skin?
I would, to be honest, I mean, I definitely have, and it's usually towards white women. Also, I don't know the culture, like the home culture of a white household. And anytime I've gone into one, it is vastly different of the household I have grown up into, especially like even speaking to your parents and things of that nature. And it's not to put all white women down or anything of that nature. It's just there have definitely been times that I've been like, that's some white people stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it's so out of the box and so, and I could totally be wrong about that person. I don't know them, but their actions usually catch my eye and have me kind of like judge them, where of course we shouldn't be judging others, but I'm also only human. So it usually is towards white America.
which is understandable because white America has been pretty horrible. So, I was raised there, so I know her. I had my grandpa using the N-word at dinner and my grandma, shushing him, and just saying you don't say those things. But, it's, yeah.
Mm. So a question for you, how did that, shape your perception, obviously, of Black people? How did that shape your perception of Black people, hearing that at the table, your grandparent?
Yeah, I think because my grandma did such a good job after dinner, like saying, hey, God's created everybody and we just love people, that it made me wonder like what's going on. But I never took it as like, oh, that's how we should actually treat people and be rude, because my grandma did such a good job of showing me how to love others.
Mm-hmm.
Even now I still remember how to love others because of how she treated people. But my grandpa was very racist, and so, but he was angry too, so I just was like, he's the racist angry guy, like, so that made it easier.
Okay. So we have a question from the chat that I think is a really good question. Laura, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I think Laura wants to take a stab at this one. I see it
Laura,
all over.
Laura, you go ahead and read that off.
Oh, so Isabel, I just feel for you because I've had this conversation so many times. And we've talked about it too, on our Kneel for 9 leadership team, because the hard part is some people just want to fight about it. And so one thing that I've had to learn is, are they actually trying to understand what I'm saying? Or are they just trying to fight because everybody wants to fight about things right now, and they're not actually trying to understand what I'm saying? Because I went to the Jacob Blake rally a few weeks ago, and I held a sign that said Black Lives Matter, and then next to it said Imago Dei, because they're made in the image of God. And I got lots of messages about it. And so one of the things that I have tried to express is I'm not buying into the narrative that says that I can't say Black Lives Matter, and that means that you have to adopt everything, which is really difficult. And the other thing is trying to try to have the conversation about why, like what they're seeing and why it's bad, and saying I don't agree with people rioting and burning things down. I don't necessarily think that is a productive way to make a point. But at the same time, I you know what? People have been kneeling, they have been protesting in peace, and they've had no results. So they're frustrated and they've lost hope. And so as much as I don't agree with those things, I get where they're coming from and I have compassion for them. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to do, is lead the conversation with compassion and understanding. And some people just don't want to learn and they don't want to understand. And so I will dialogue with them a little bit and then just kind of leave them alone.
Yeah, I think if I can chime in there too.
Yeah.
If they're up for having a conversation, if they're coming from a one stance, I'm not budging and I'm not moving, do I have time today? Sometimes I got time today, we gonna go there. But then there's other times where it's like, you know what, I don't even have time for this. So finding out where people are at, number one, is this a one-sided conversation so that they can rebuttal you and so that they can tell you how you were wrong? Or are they genuinely asking the question? If they're genuine in their question, I'd like to personally, I distinguish, there is absolutely a Black Lives Matter organization. But the Black Lives Matter organization does not monopolize the fact that Black lives actually matter. Yes. Okay, so people have been saying and crying in different ways that Black lives need equality, that there are systems that are set up, that are, set up so that Black Americans and people of color do not succeed, or prevent them from succeeding, or slow them down, however you want to look at that. But the fact is that they do not monopolize the statement in and of itself has value outside of the organization.
Yeah.
Yes.
We as Kneel for Nine, we as Plain English, me personally, if and when I say that, I am not referring to the Black Lives Matter organization. I am not sending people to the organization to give to the organization. I'm not standing behind what they believe in. That's all up to you as an individual on whether you're saying, hey, I back the organization or not. What I am saying is that Black Lives Matter in and of itself. And if you can't see that and you're not even able to distinguish that, then it's difficult to continue a conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So just so you all know, I'm going to go ahead and read the question off that they answered. And the question was, how are you handling the massive comparison between what people believe Black Lives Matter is about, claiming is as nothing but a Marxist movement, and what you are standing for? They have, the person has had such difficult conversations with white people about this topic, and was wondering how we were handling it. So that's what they were answering to, just for those of you who were wondering. And I think as we're talking about Black lives and trying to get people to understand something, I guess I have a question. Why is it an issue, or is it an issue if someone who is not Black dates someone who is? Anybody want to take a stab at that? Like, do you feel that it's an issue? Do you understand why it could be perceived as an issue? Do you not understand why it's an issue? Or even asking, is it really an issue, or is it something else?
Shauna, you know where I stand on this. As a biracial child, growing up, you know, as I like to say, Blaxican. But I grew up in a very Hispanic household. Shout out to Mexican Independence. Hispanic Heritage Month.
Yes.
You know, a lot of it has to do with my own personalization. I am not against interracial dating. I've interracial dated myself. Everyone love everyone you want to love, regardless, in my opinion. Gay, straight, what have you. I think it's a trigger for me for the simple fact of a lot of my own personal Blackness was hidden as a child. Not that I could hide my skin color, but so of the family that I grew up with. Not to say that my family was racist or any of that matter. It's just I grew up not knowing what it was to be African American, nor that history, you know, and a lot of coming into my own Blackness was in my late 20s and 30s. You know, of course, I've experienced racism and things of that nature, even as a child. I was fully aware that I was Black, but I didn't know my own history. And that's something my mom couldn't teach me, right? Because she didn't even live that life. And so I think more so it's about the children for me. I think that's what the trigger is. It's, you know, and I just had this conversation today, especially our brothers and sisters who date, you know, socialite, social status, I'm going to say it, white people, calling out the AG of Kentucky, is I feel that in order to obtain a particular social status, certain people are so willing to disregard their own culture.
Yes.
But also be the token Black person or Black or minority.
Yeah.
And that doesn't fly with me. What makes me even more angry is when they reproduce. And by reproducing those children, which is a beautiful thing, trust me, it's still very beautiful, but you aren't providing them the knowledge of what it means to be Black in America, not necessarily the world, in America. And having to sit down and have that conversation with your son, just because he's biracial, all a cop's gonna see is his skin color. Right. He could be Dominican, he could be Puerto Rican, he can be any other, you know, Afro-Latino, but at the end of the day, in this country, you're Black, you know, and the dangers of that. So that, I think, what irks me the most, especially Shauna and I, we've talked about this when, you know, the young man in high school, I think it was New Jersey, he had the dreads and the ref cut off his dreads. Like, that couldn't be my child. You know, you're not going to touch my child. And what's wrong with his hair? What's that have to do with him wrestling? What's that have to do with his talent? You know, and the father who was Black, to me, what I saw, just sat back and watched it happen. And it's like in those moments, you know, you're also teaching your children to conform to what is acceptable to white America of a Black person, or what have you. I'm trying not to always lean heavily on white, but that's where my mind goes to, because there's all a racism in every sector of the world. So for me, that's where my truth lies in that. I'm not against it. I'm not upset. I just always question, like, I had a friend who was biracial, and they were Black and white, and they grew up predominantly in white neighborhoods, suburbs, another one in New Jersey. And I literally asked him, when was the day you realized you were Black? When did you realize you were Black? And he was like, well, I noticed I was different in high school. You noticed that you were different in high school? Like, I just kept repeating the question back to him. And not that that's wrong. It's just like, wow, like, did you ask your father about it? Did you, where did you go with it? And he didn't carry on the conversation, because that's essentially what they were taught. You know, you don't need to carry on the conversation. You're accepted enough.
So what I hear you saying, Vanessa, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the lack of celebration of culture, that if that is lacking, or if it's like, kind of like not celebrated, and actually the opposite of putting a cover over it, almost like when that is not present. I think that my personal thought and opinion, obviously I'm married in an interracial marriage, that there will always be, we live in America, so there's always going to be the dominant culture, which is the white culture. That's the dominant culture. So everybody, and we're obviously, part of the reason why we're here today is to really help bridge that gap. There's a dominant culture, and there's standards, and there is what has always been, and then there's everybody else, people of color. And it's us shining the light on how can we celebrate, how can we be celebrated, and how we can celebrate ourselves and not be ashamed of it either. And it's not that we're sitting here saying we're better than you. We want you to say we're as good as you, and that that Juneteenth is also something that's important, like y'all celebrate 4th of July. Okay, so it's shedding light, and it's bringing greater understanding to that. I think that living in a dominant culture, I had the same experience as your friend. Like, I didn't really realize that I was not white until I was like in high school. Like, I knew I was Hispanic, but like I didn't know I was really different until I was like in high school, because I was raised in a white neighborhood, went to a white school, in elementary school and then middle school, and then not until high school that I really started having friends that were people of color, that were Black. And then we immediately attracted to one another. They were like, we got to stick together. And I was like, yeah, we got to stick together. And I was like, what does that mean? Like, and then it was like, I had this moment.
Like, I don't know.
I had this like moment where I was like, oh, because I never really had close friends that were not white. Like, I wasn't exposed to it. So again, I agree. We need to celebrate our heritage, and that's something, even a goal of mine with my daughter, with our daughter, with Jay and I's daughter, is to celebrate both of the heritages. And we've had conversations. Jay and I have had conversations where he's asking me, how can we better celebrate your Mexican heritage? How can we instill that into our daughter? Which I think is important.
Sure. Yeah. I think it's very important.
I think too, not even just celebrating, but how about we start with acknowledging?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you have to even acknowledge it before you can celebrate it.
Yeah.
I think to your point, Vanessa, like when you're not even like, okay, you want to do the biracial relationship, have biracial children, but then like not even acknowledging that your child is Black or that your child is Hispanic.
Exactly.
Like, how do you like just like dismiss this whole other half of them?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I just think I look at it from the perspective of, and I'm all about celebration of culture. I think I lean more towards Shauna's interjection about it, is because there's such a lack of knowledge, and it starts with acknowledging it, and then you can celebrate. How are you able to celebrate if there's not a basis or something to step on it? And another, I think also, it's just, again, my own personal opinion, is a lot of times our children get to a point where it's not an issue until they find themselves staring down a gun barrel, or they're pulled over by a cop, and having to explain that. Whereas Black households are having these conversations with 7-year-olds, with 8-year-olds, you know what I mean? So it's like, what I want them to acknowledge is that although your children are biracial, again, speaking as a biracial child, of a lighter skin parent is you have to protect them. You have to show them like there is an ugliness about it. You can help change it. You can help move it forward and do better, but it can be very ugly and jarring, just ugly and jarring.
Yeah, and I feel the same way, especially I'm just 100% Black, 100 African American. I feel like what Vanessa said, that's the second part of it for me. The first part of it would be kind of like what's happening. I don't want to say it's happening now, but I hope it's not happening now because I really do want it to be a movement towards change. But I don't like the trendiness of dating an African American, either for status or because it's trendy. I've heard people my age, and I was born and raised in Gainesville, Florida, before I moved up here for probably like third, fourth grade, and then that quickly turned into the only Black girl in the classroom out of 30 kids. So, and then just growing up here, where it's predominantly white, and most of the time I am that only Black person. I hear a lot of different things, and I don't think it's out of malice. I just think sometimes it's out of ignorance. Like, oh, I want a biracial baby because their skin looks good, their eyes could be this different color, their blah 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 blah. And so I was just like, it's not build a baby out here. Like you just you can't be out here building babies. And
I can't even.
Baby, babies, like that's not it. That's something that like kind of irks me, and I'm like, what you mean the eyes, like any that's given with any. And I think also African Americans not having enough exposure to being educated enough to love themselves, and the colorism up here that I've experienced, like you're pretty for dark. No, I'm pretty for an African American, period.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that colorism is just like, oh, I want to date a lighter skinned girl. They look more exotic. And I'm like, but if you have an all African American child, what are you telling them indirectly? Like you're not good enough for, someone to love you just because you're Black. Now you have people like, oh, I have to be mixed with this, I have to be mixed with that. And that's not it. You should love yourself as you are. As an African American woman, 100%, I love myself for who I am, and that's unapologetically for me, because that's who I am, and I'm not ashamed of it. I never want my children to be ashamed of it. I see a Black woman on the street, I'd be like, wow, you're gorgeous, like, because I'm letting you know indirectly that it's okay to just be 100% Black and be beautiful, because that's how you are. And sometimes I hear with, guys that are my age with dating, like I've asked guys like, why do you only date white women? And then it's just been a conversation of, oh, I can get away with a lot more, or I can have biracial kids and they won't have it as hard and stuff like that. So I'm just like, it's been a teeter-totter for me just because of some of the responses I hear about it trending with African American men dating white women or women outside of their race because they're exotic or because their kids have a chance or better chance of having lighter skin. It's the ignorance, honestly, in appropriating your own culture or loving your own culture 100% as you are, and knowing that you're beautiful, and society shouldn't tell you that because you're not white, Latina, blah 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 blah. So that's just kind of where it ticks a little bit for me.
Yeah, I think, Shania, it's interesting that you've had that discussion. I think we're probably like 15 years apart, I think, in our ages. But I'm dating a Black man right now, and I've dated quite a few Black men. And it's been interesting because one of the things that they have said is they've warned me, you're going to get looked at by Black women and it's not going to be favorable. And that was really weird for me to hear, because I'm just seeing them as a person. Like, I'm dating you. I mean, I see their color and I see their culture, and I love different cultures. I studied that in college. And so I really appreciate that, but I'm dating you because I like you, not just because you're a Black man. But then just to have those conversations was really, really it was awkward for me. And I mean, I'm bold and not afraid to say that. But I don't know. I still don't completely understand where that comes from. So I think it would be helpful for us to talk about it, like what in the Black community, what those conversations look like on your side, because I know what they look like on my side.
Yeah.
Also, I get looks, and I go out to dinner with my boyfriend, and we get treated differently, and we get pulled over and profiled, and like it's an experience, which is sad that it's that experience, but it is.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I know that one thing, like you said, with you dating a Black man, you get to see just a tiny portion of what Black men go through and Black women go through, as far as the looks, the stares, clenching other purses and walking on the other side of the street and things like that. As it pertains to dating Black men and you're not Black, I can only speak from my own personal experience, right? So don't nobody get mad at me, people.
Right, I know you're not speaking for everybody.
Okay, disclaimer.
Person.
Right, disclaimer. I'm speaking for Chanel, okay? But, okay, but seriously, for me, dating a Black man and then we break up and then he goes and dates a white woman. I don't care who you date. And personally, I feel like if I broke up with you, anybody can have you at this point, because you was not for me. But it really becomes more of a how Black men speak about Black women. And
right, like that bothers me.
Yeah, but see, that's what you're dealing with, right? So
right.
It's not necessarily that Black women are looking at you sideways because you're dating a Black man. It's because Black men say, "Oh, I'm not dating these Black women no more. Black women are loud, they're ghetto, they crazy, and all these other things." Like white women ain't all of that too.
I'm just as loud as the next one.
I'm like, just being all the way real. I see more white women on Snap. I'm just saying. So
that part.
just being real. So what you're receiving is that anger and that bitterness of how Black men belittle us when they decide they want to go outside of the race. So it's not really about you personally. Mm-hmm. It's just, so we look at that man like he probably one of them who said, I'm not dating this Black women no more because of like everything I'm giving y'all right now. That's why they don't be wanting to date us. And they think it's going to be easier because we also have been told that dating white women basically kiss Black men's feet. Or you get what I'm saying? Like, you like whatever you like. And we ain't doing all of that. So that's what we were told. We were told that, you know what I'm saying?
Shauna, maybe that's why me and a couple of them didn't end up together.
Cause you didn't get them the snow bunny they was looking for. That's what it was. And this again, I'm speaking for the Shauna Black person. Cause I can't speak for everybody, but for me, I've never looked at a white woman or a Philippine woman or whatever woman these Black men decide to date.
Yes.
I ain't never looked at the woman sideways. I look at him sideways because I'm thinking, you probably thought you upgraded. Because they look at it as an upgrade, like being with us is a downgrade, even though we were the ones for generations who held your arms up when you held it down, when you didn't have a job, when you didn't have nothing, you was in our house. But then when you get something, then you want to go to Becky. I ain't fooling with you. That's why Beyonce was like, okay, go to Becky with the good hair. If that's where you want to go to Becky with the good hair.
Yeah.
Right.
But when you go to jail, Becky ain't going to be your pen pal. Becky ain't going to come. And again, this is Shauna's perception. We can hold you down when you ain't got nothing. But then when you get something, then you want to upgrade like we ain't nothing. And that's my problem.
Yeah.
So you just get side-eye because you with them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost too, like, to piggyback off of that, it's just like a huge slap in the face, kind of. You know, it's, again, Vanessa speaking, you could be the nicest white woman in the world dating a Black man. You know what I mean? It's just like, but to us, like Shauna said, we've been there, even to this day, we might not be in a relationship with a Black man, but we can go hard for Black men. you know, and it's still like, we're still not enough. But you want us to cook and clean. You want us to be your mama, but you out here, you know, doing this and that. So I think it's everyone's, at first, I think you shouldn't take it personally.
Right.
Yeah.
If you can help it, yeah, people are gonna look, people are gonna have their judgments, but people are gonna have that judgment by the color of my hair. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you love your dude, you do you. Y'all are respectful to one another. Y'all do it. But like Shauna said, I think the bear of weight lies more so on the Black men than it does on who they're dating.
Yes.
In that aspect, because it always feels like, what, we're not good enough, or you know, we're only good for something else. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thankful that the man that I'm talking to now does not have that perspective. But we've, you know, I've had that with many other men, and that's challenging. But that's partly part of the reason we're not together anymore.
Yeah.
So because I told you ain't that snow bunny they looking for.
No, exactly. One more thing. I know you're gonna move on, Shada, but one more thing. I would also question those in a relationship, for white women to also understand that maybe, have you ever stopped to think that maybe you're a fetish? You know what I mean? Like, that can happen too.
Oh yeah, it totally can. I've met people. Oh, I totally know. They don't get very far, but I can spot them.
I mean, keeping it real, Black men are fetish too. So
yes,
right. We can just dating.
Right, yeah. But we gonna move on, because I definitely want to make sure we respond to the people who are asking these awesome questions in the chat. So this was a question from Tasha. She said, I think there should be a bridge there to keep a Black influence and culture in a Black or any other cross-cultural adopted child's life. Yes. What do you feel about that?
Absolutely. 100%. I've seen that's something that I'm kind of passionate about too, because I've seen so many African-American children or Latino children, and they're just, you know, they're being adopted by all these white families, but they're kind of in a way being forced to abandon their culture, which in the end is hurting them. I've seen, you know, I've had a mentor or African-American girl, and it was sad having a conversation with her because she didn't know she was Black. And so when you do that and you snatch that opportunity away from them because you want them to fully adapt and absorb your culture, you're snatching away, but you're creating damage for the future. Because when that girl comes into reality with what America it really is going to be a slap in the face. She's going to experience an identity crisis. She's going to be experiencing depression. She's going to be experiencing anxiety, all three of these things because you have forced her to abandon all that she is because she is becoming a part of your family. Yes, it is okay for white people to adopt people of different cultures, but you need to make sure that at least if you can't, because the white people that are adopting kids of minorities, you cannot give them everything that they need. I'm sorry, you cannot. So look into African-American groups. Look into groups for Latin cultures, Asian culture, whatever the child's ethnicity is. You need to be looking into outside groups, outside influencers, outside role models, to have them have that dialogue with them. They can have that dialogue because they know what it is being Mexican or Puerto Rican or Black or Asian or this or that. They know what it feels like to be that. You don't.
I recently met a family. Sorry if I'm interrupting. I recently met a family who had adopted a young girl who was Native American. Mm-hmm. And they actually completely switched their church homes to a church plant that is a Native American. They celebrate their culture. They're Christian. They're believers in Christ. But they also they celebrate the Native American culture, and it's just a safe place. And so, white family adopted Native American girl, and they've actually made that transition because they felt it was that important.
Yes.
And I completely agree with you, Shania. There are ways and there are things that you can do, that people can do who are adopting or fostering children of different cultures and race than different than themselves, to help continue to connect them to who their roots.
Yes.
We all want to, and still on the topic, slightly off the topic, is like, I have to say my personal experience. I already said I was raised in mostly white community, white school. Um, I I didn't really have that opportunity to really do a whole lot of understanding my culture. My parents spoke Spanish at home. I understood Spanish, but I didn't really speak it. I would go to celebrations in Kenosha or festivals in Kenosha that had some, Hispanic churches, but like that was maybe a few times in the summer. So it was very sparingly, but it was for the sake of, hey, we're adapting to where we are and we're fitting into where we are. And so we don't stick out. And we adjust and we succeed. This is how we succeed, and I feel that my parents did the absolute best that they knew how to do, and I don't doubt that at all. But I think there are things that can be done to continue to celebrate that and just learn more about it.
Absolutely. We have another question from the chat. Y'all are coming with these questions. Thank you so much
I love it.
for engaging
Yes.
with us. This is from Nicole Walker. Do you think that people in interracial marriages and relationships, specifically Black and white, who understand racial injustices, systematic racism, and who appreciate and embrace each other's cultures can be a bridge to reaching white Americans who don't understand injustice, prejudice, and racism? Girl,
That's why I'm here, girl. Nicole, that is why I am here. Be that bridge. Yes. That's all I have to say. That's why I'm here. Yes.
drop mic like yes, and I'm done. and pose for the camera.
Yes, I think that absolutely you can be that bridge. Now, I think I think that not everyone is called to be that bridge. Everyone
Yes.
can be, but when this is a long, extensive, deep journey, and it's layers upon layers upon layers. And so absolutely, whatever you can do it. But you just remember, you're not going to you can't fix everybody. Definitely though, don't avoid it.
I think that for those who are in that situation and haven't spoken out, there is a cost to it, and I've experienced that cost.
Oh yeah, you do.
And that's okay. That is okay that I've had people question me and unfriend me, and they don't agree with me because I'm speaking up about what I'm seeing and what I've experienced and the data that's out there, but there is a cost to that, being that bridge builder, but I think it's a worthy cost, but there is a piece of that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that it's really important. I grew up with interracial families being around, and I think it's important for you to speak up. But again, like Sonia was saying, that's if you're called to it, because like Laura was saying, it might not always go the way you had hoped it would.
Right.
Be willing to let go and be willing to lose people and be okay with that. That's how you have to know if it's really for you to do, because once you put yourself out there, there's no coming back from that. And again, you'll get just a glimpse of what it's like to walk in the shoes of a minority on a regular basis.
And honestly, seeing this and knowing that I'm only getting a taste of what people experience makes me want to fight harder, but that's just kind of my personality. But it's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah. So we only have a few minutes left. So we have so many questions. We're gonna have to have a part 2, ladies. I'm just telling y'all right now. It's gonna have to be a part 2 because people was coming in with them questions, and we really want to make sure we were engaging with our audience. And
I
so,
love it. I love
right?
it.
Thank you so much. So I want us to really end this with a last thought. So what is one thing that you personally feel can be done to close the racial divide? More specifically for women of color and white women. Because I feel like at the end of the day, we as women carry a lot more weight than we realize a lot of times. We're really the ones carrying the torch. Our children are looking at us, you know, and a lot of times we're the ones who end up having to lead even in our marriages or in our relationships, a lot of times because men, especially men of color, have been broken. And so we need to be strong for them as well as for ourselves. So what is one thing that you feel we can do to close that racial divide? And let's keep it short. Sonia, you want to go first? No. Okay.
No.
I got somebody else. This is impromptu questions, people. If you stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready. Like
what we can do to close the racial divide between women of color and white women, be open to relationship building. Genuine relationship building. It helps to break down walls and to build understanding and build compassion. So if you only have one or two people who are a different race, specifically from white to a woman of color, or vice versa, seek out genuine relationships, build relationships with people. That's what I would say. Absolutely. That could really help.
Absolutely. Shania?
I think there are two things that can be done from both sides. I think that when an African American is speaking to a white woman, I feel like the defense totally needs to be down from the white woman in order to effectively hear what she's saying, what she's feeling, and what she's trying to communicate with you, even if she's passionate about it. It takes kind of like that humbling step to just sit and listen wholeheartedly without a rebuttal. And then from an African American woman's aspect, I think it's important to allow white women the opportunity to, you know, ask questions and possibly mess up in the things that they say, allow that grace enough to resurface and come back, because people always have the opportunity to learn something. If they don't get it at that moment, hopefully later on down the road, you can get it. But by not allowing them to have that room for grace, there won't be a later on down the road, and the conversation will never be had, and you'll still feel some type of way from something that happened umpteen years ago. So allowing grace from Black women to Caucasian women, and allowing from white women to Black women, just listening to what they're having to say.
Absolutely. Vanessa?
How do I put this? I think it's, for me, it's about being extremely transparent. I personally am just kind of sick of the kumbaya. Like, be selective in who you have in your friend circle. You know, we can only hold hands and heal together for so long. It's all about the action. It's all about your intentions. Both sides. I just think if we really put it out on the table, spoke how we wanted to speak in a polite, well-mannered way, without raising our voices, being clear and concise about our needs and what we need you to understand. And also, what I would like to see from the other aisle is what I will say, is educate yourselves. You know, go do your own research. You know, you don't have to ask me all the questions. I am not the person with all the answers. You know, I'm not the minority person who can anoint you with all the knowledge. You know, I want our adult white brothers and sisters to do that, to go the extra mile. And that shows that you're willing to try and you're willing to empathize. I respect that way more than you asking me what's it like being a Black person, or, you know, what do you do in the Black culture? Like, I can only answer that so much.
Right.
So I think the real talk is do your own homework. If you're really about it, do it. And show up however you can. Show up however you can, and stop apologizing. Stop apologizing for something you didn't do, Laura. You know, her grandparents, my grandparents. We don't need to apologize for them old people.
Mm-hmm.
No, we need to be on here speaking our truth, being upfront, and if someone disrespects you, you let them know. Transparency.
Mm-hmm.
Also, look at these hoots, y'all.
They're so great.
Yes. Laura, what about you?
My first thought is for just white women and other people who don't understand or are not sure. Believe people when they tell them their story. And because I think so many people are saying, well, I have that one friend who hasn't experienced this, and so the rest of you guys, this isn't real in America. No, like, believe people when they tell you their story, and actively listen to them and engage them and walk in empathy with people. And for people of color, just keep sharing your stories. I know it's hard, Vanessa. I know it's so hard to over and over and over be telling people things, but know that people who are listening, and there are people that truly want to understand, that we hear that and we want to understand you and we support you and we're right there with you. And so I think it's continuing to come alongside each other through this, but really believing people and listening to people's stories is really important.
Absolutely. I want to share a comment that I hope I'm saying your name right. Please forgive me if I am not. Quinette Bulls.
Yep, that's Shay Shay.
Yep, said we need to work on bridging the gap between Black women and everyone else, not just white. Absolutely, totally agree. And even in this conversation, and that's why there are women from different backgrounds within this discussion, because it's not just about white women and Black women. It's about
Yes.
all of us. And that's why, you know, you have biracial, you have Hispanic, you have Black, you have white, because it's about all of us coming together and bridging that gap. And it's so important that we take the necessary steps. And in that, though, what I would encourage people to do, and what I would ask people to really think about is this seasonal healing for you?
Yeah.
Okay, because we like to rally together when something hits the headline news. Just being honest. But just because it doesn't make the headline news doesn't mean it's not happening.
Yes.
Right? And just like we want to be supportive as Black Lives Matter, you know, it's like, how many of us were at the Capitol when the Hispanic community was trying to get their right? You know what I mean? Like, we have to show up for one another and not just me. We can't keep doing the me. And we can't keep just doing the seasonal, like, oh, something happened, let's come together. No, when the cameras are off, when you're off social media, what are you doing? How are you applying what you're reading, what you're listening to, and what you're talking about, because now everyone's talking about it at work, we're on social media talking about it, you're at the protests and things like that, and that is all great because that is an important part of it too. But at the end of the day, if you're not applying this to your life, then it is all for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So please let us not make this seasonal.
Yeah.
This is a lifelong journey. It took a lifetime for us to get, like, it's going to take a long time, but it's never going to happen if we don't stop just talking about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So outside of this conversation, what you gathered from this, take it to your circle and have the conversation, show them the video, have that dialogue with them and say, this is what I watched. Let's watch it like a movie and then have dialogue about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes for all of us, not just white women, not just Black, but like everyone. We all need to do it because we all play a part. Like, a car is not going to move. If you don't have a steering wheel, you can't go nowhere. If you out of one tire, you can't go nowhere. If you ain't got brakes, you can't stop. We all are a part.
Mm-hmm.
In order to work, we all are a different piece. Same thing with the body.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep, and I'm just going to interject, and I'm just going to say that I love you ladies and appreciate the genuine relationships that we have. We stayed on, and I'm gonna just tell our business. We hung out last night to have our pre-meeting to prepare for this, and we were on till like 11:30. We got on at 8, just because we enjoy hanging out with each other. Just because we want to talk and genuinely enjoy one another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vanessa was in bed, but yes.
But Vanessa checked out a little early.
I woke up to a text from Shauna. I was like, girl.
Like, while we still on here, she woke up like, girl, I was good asleep. Like, I was night.
Well, and I think that what I love about us is we all come from very different backgrounds.
Yeah.
But what we have in common unites us more than it divides us. And so we really focusing on those things is really powerful. And then accepting the differences and appreciating the differences and appreciating each other's stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the last thing I'll say too, because I know people want to go, but get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes.
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 Ever
In this, honey.
It's not gonna be easy. Your feelings will get hurt. You will feel insecure. I said there will be days you're gonna have snot running from your nose like Viola Davis and all her crying scenes. It's gonna be rough. It's not gonna be easy. And to think that it is gonna be easy is privilege in itself. We have never
You better close this.
So the fact that you are able to show your emotion and whine about how you don't understand, that is not a privilege most of us women have had. And I'm putting all women in that category.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just get comfortable with being uncomfortable about it.
Yes.
That's it.
Man.
That's it.
It's a good ending, Vanessa.
Yes. So I definitely want to thank everyone, each and every one of you who joined, who listened, who engaged in the conversation. Thank you for being a part. And the best part is, if you are not following Kneel for 9 page, you need to get with it today. Tell your friends, tell your cousin, tell your auntie, tell your uncle, tell Pee-wee and them, tell everybody, because it's real. It is real. And it is such an honor and a privilege to be a part of this. And the best part is, if you're a part of the page, you'll stay updated with the next time there's going to be stuff. There's always articles, there's videos, there's dialogue. There's so much going on Kneel for 9. So I definitely don't want you to miss out. So again, if you're not following the page, follow the page. Every single Wednesday, there's a video, y'all. You don't even understand. Every Wednesday. What? Y'all TV shows ain't even on yet. Half of them won't even be starting till November. So you ain't got nothing to do but be on Kneel for 9 Wednesday. You on Facebook anyway, you might as well scroll on into Kneel for 9. Shameless plug. Don't care. Okay. Well, that is it, you guys. I'm going to say until next time. Thank
Next
you for joining
time.
us and kneel for 9.